Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of LonsTV. Today, I'm going to review a web series. Going to talk about one that hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, at least stateside. It's a British web series, and I don't know, I stumbled on it. I'm not even sure how I found out about it, but it was just, I've got a little bookmark file where I keep web shows that I come across that I think I might want to review, and this one was in there when I was reviewing it today, and, I just took a look and I got kind of sucked in. So, it's called Self-Centered. It is, as I said, it was a British production, self-centeredseries.co.uk is where you can find it. Their episodes are about 3 to 4 minutes long. There's a new one every Tuesday. We're at episode 4. There's going to be 2 more this season. It's going to be a 6-episode season, and they already apparently have plans for a season 2. The setup. Actress Lydia, she's the star, and she was like kind of the next big thing. She seemed like she had a big career going, and then she's sort of blown it all on drinking and drugs and all that. That sort of traditional arc. So we follow her. She's just had like a one-night stand, and we come to understand that, she does this all the time. So she's drinking, and she gets in the bathtub with her clothes on, and there's even sort of a hint that it might be like a suicide attempt or something. She's taking some pills. But anyway, she wakes up, and she's in this hospital bed in what looks like a hospital room, but a guy there who calls himself the Custodian says this isn't a hospital, it's actually the clinic, and it is the future, and there is a movie that Lydia must star in her own time and reality that's called For All Our Tomorrows. And if she's not in this movie and doesn't do a good job, the fate, like the horrible things will happen. The world needs this movie in order to sort of go with the future. It's kind of a weird mix of M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water, which is he's the writer and he has to write this great thing that's going to like unite the world, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which they have to like be wild stallions in the future and their music unites the world. So anytime you're borrowing from disparate sources like that, you're off to an interesting start. I know it sounds really silly when you hear that premise, and it is. I mean, it's silly, but they do a pretty good job throughout the show of making it at least. You can go with it. The characters seem to accept it, and they're vague enough about what's going on that you just kind of get pulled in. And like I said, they take things in some interesting directions. It was written by a guy named Steven Keevil, and he does a really good job of he gives you just enough information at a time that it doesn't seem like you're ever getting overwhelmed by exposition, but there's enough that's keeping you there that you want to see what's going to happen next. And when you first hear that premise in the first episode, that it's like you have to go back to your own time and make this movie, you're like, man, what? But that's really silly. But they do a pretty good job of keeping things after that, reined in enough that it doesn't just totally go off and spin off in a bunch of crazy sci-fi circles. There was a sci-fi movie I saw earlier this year called The Deaths of Ian Stone that it opened similarly with a really whacked out premise, and then they just kept like piling on more ludicrousness to hope to make up for the silliness of the initial premise, and it just totally doesn't work, and the movie just, spirals out and goes crazy. This one gives you like a really nutty premise, and then really backs away, and then slowly gets you there. So you almost like kind of accept it because you've just gotten sucked in. One complaint about the website, I'm going to talk about the cast, because really the actress playing Lydia kind of holds the whole thing together, but I went to the website to look up who she was and who a few of the other people are, and they have a full cast list for the show, which includes characters that don't appear until, like, episode 6, and it's actually, like, a spoiler. Like, I know now names of characters who haven't shown up yet, but who are going to show up, and some of them give away plot stuff, and it's like, that, kind of a boneheaded move, guys. Like, the whole show is really built on this, like, episodes end in a cliffhanger, and it's like this weird suspense story, and you want to see where it's going. You don't want to give it away just because I've looked up what the actress's name is. It turns out her name is Kellie Shirley, and she's actually, relatively well known in Britain. She's been in EastEnders. She plays Carly on EastEnders. Not that that means anything to me because I haven't seen the show. She was in that movie Wimbledon. She's actually made some films. So, and she's good. And she does a really good job of handling the transition from it opens and she's like coked out, crazy from the drink, suicidal actress, and then, she gets this news and she sort of cleans up her act, and she handles that transition really believably. It's not super over the top on either end, which is really nice, and you kind of only as a viewer are going with the strangeness of this premise that she keeps like pinging back and forth in time, and she's got to make this movie because she is so sort of game and communicates, a little like, what? At first, not really on board, but then she handles that transition really well, and it really helps. And the show at some points is not really doing her favors in that area. The clinic set is really just they got a hospital bed and then they put a curtain around it like you'd be in a hospital. But she, we're to understand Lydia is being pinged there sort of randomly, like Billy Pilgrim in Slaughterhouse-5 style. Like sometimes she just wakes up and she's there, and she's always asking the custodian who's there talking to her, like, what's beyond the curtain? Like, what is this place really? You can tell me. And that's just a curtain. Like, why doesn't she just open it and walk around? She's not tied to the bed or anything. Like, there's little things like that, that doesn't really invest believability in the situation. Also, you're guessing it's supposed to be the future because he's talking about things that, need to happen that have not happened yet, and, showing her images like the world's going to be destroyed if you don't do this. But there's nothing at all even remotely futuristic about the hospital. It looks exactly like a hospital would look like. Like, she wakes up, she goes, oh, I'm in a hospital, and it's like, not like that was her best guess. It's like, it looks exactly like she's in a hospital. Like, they could, at this point, I don't think they're going to do this, they better not. They could end the whole show with like, you've been in a hospital this whole time, and it's a trick. And you could buy that because it looks exactly like a hospital. So, that's really not helping their cause at all. Like a little bit of set dressing or something, even just having her like strapped to the bed would explain, well, that's why she doesn't get up and go look outside and see what the world is that she's in when she's like this. But it's a quibble. I was entertained enough that I kind of went along with it, even though I recognized while I was doing so, like, this is sort of dumb. And it is, in its best moments, it is sort of reminiscent of what, something like a David Lynch might do. Obviously not with his, not elaborate and not with his mastery of style, but, like little things like it's this odd, the fate of worlds depends on a movie being produced, which is like a Lynchian sort of idea, like Mulholland Drive, the whole conspiracy behind like this movie getting made, and it's got just using like surrealism to communicate like people who are feeling angsty and having inner turmoil, and that it's expressed by sort of this impressionistic, surreal kind of stuff. And even I noticed another connection. The movie in this, the fake movie in a movie is called For All Our Tomorrows. And in Inland Empire, the fake movie that everything hinges on is called On High in Blue Tomorrows. So I think maybe the Lynch thing was not lost on the actual makers of Self-Centered. So do check it out. Selfcenteredseries.co.uk is where you can find it. And you have 2 more weeks, the next Tuesday and then the following, to catch up and then catch the last 2 episodes. And they are planning a season 2, so best of luck to them. Thanks for joining me on LonsTV, and I will see all of you next time.